Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is Three Buck Theater, and you know what I don't like. I'll be honest about this. I don't like it when people who work on something attack the fan base. I don't. Now, that doesn't mean they have to like the fan base. I'm not saying that that's the case because I know many people who work in many different mediums that really do not like certain elements of the fan base. That's fine. You can have your personal opinion. No one's going to say another word about that. But what I don't like is when they attack the fan base that they're actively working for and the parent company does nothing. I mean, the parent company does absolutely nothing. And I normally don't say much about that, but in this case, I feel it's entirely necessary. This is Chuck Wendig, who looks like a little older version of Jesse Cox, but just with, I don't know, a photo that will one day be photoshopped in a very horrible way. But it says here from Bounding into Comics, Star Wars writer Chuck Wendig calls for violence against Trump supporters. Now, listen, I am no fan of Trump, not one damn iota, but I will never call for violence against Trump supporters. That is ridiculous. There are people out there, again, different opinions than me, and that's perfectly fine. But this dude goes on Twitter and loses his goddamn mind and ends up using it as a way to attack a fan base that currently pays his goddamn salary. Because not only did Chuck Wendig write a couple novels, he's also the one who was adapting The Last Jedi into a comic book, which means he's already been paid. I guess maybe he doesn't care if he gets fired because he's already made the money he's made. But so far, Disney and Lucasfilm, and especially Kathleen Kennedy, hasn't said shit about this. And that is an outright problem. So it says here, Star Wars writer Chuck Wendig is back to his old ways, but this time he's calling for violence against Trump supporters and those whose opinions oppose his own political beliefs. Wendig isn't a stranger to these long-winded, crazed rants. He previously called Star Wars fans white supremacists. He threatened to sue people over a parody shirt, and then he would go on a profanity-laced rant decrying Star Wars fans, claiming they came from a poisoned, septic wellspring. He would then describe the wellspring as toxic masculinity and white privilege. He would even then make the bizarre claim that that as a writer, he doesn't make products. Chuck is a weird guy, and he knows he's a weird guy. He knows how to get under the skin of a particular type of Star Wars fan. But it goes beyond that. It goes beyond trolling the trolls, if you will. When you start making these types of claims, you are literally attacking the fan base, and that is not a good thing at all. Now, here's what he says on Twitter. There will be renewed calls for civility. Ignore them. They ask for civility as a way to grant you them complicity in what they do. Civility is for normalcy. When things are normal and working as intended, civility is part of maintaining balance. But when that balance is gone, civility does not help return it, but rather destabilize it further because your civility gives them cover as evil. Note, this isn't the same as calling for violence, but it is suggesting that you should be ashamed for using vigorous, vulgar language, or standing up in disobedience, or demanding acknowledgement and action in whatever way you must. Now, I've heard these kind of things used predominantly from the left, but a few more times more recently used from the right. We're starting to see this boiling over of these type of opinions, and I don't know about you, but I find it to be, well, frightening. I do find it to be frightening because we should never allow ourselves to get in to civil disobedience when a discussion is really all that's needed. However, he does go on to say, and these are all, this one here is deleted. Fuck Trump. He's just the ugly fake gold mask they put on this thing. Fuck all the GOP. Fuck that blubbering, bristling frat boy judge. Fuck McConnell, Ryan, Grassley, Collins, every last one of them. Fuck them for how they've shamed victims and helped dismantle this democracy. Now, here's the thing. He's talking obviously about Brett Kavanaugh, right? A lot of people have a lot of feelings about that. My personal stance on that, if you care, is that I think his actions during his job interview disqualified him from the position of justice. That being said, that's really about it. But you can see how he's trying to use this type of language as a way to go after what he's feeling. And it does go on from there. It says, they will tell you to smile, that we need to get back to business, that we got to heal the rift and blah, blah, blah. But that's the desire of a savvy bully who wants to stop you to stop crying after he hit you, who wants you not to fight back, but you can cry and you can fight back. So he's kind of all over the place here, right? Like he's like, don't use violence, but use your words, be as vulgar and salacious as you want in order to push back. But what happens when words end up moving past the realm of what their intent is? When words are never enough, what do you do then? Right. So that's kind of where the article goes next. He says, however, he would quickly shift his tune in a number of tweets that he's now deleted. In fact, he would call for Trump supporters to eat a boot covered in shit. It's obvious he's calling for Trump supporters to be smashed in the face with a boot covered in shit. He's not fooling anyone. Wendig might claim he's not calling for violence, but that's exactly what he's doing. Yeah, pretty much, saying here they can all eat shit, all of them. They can eat a boot covered in shit. Winter is coming, you callous fucknecks, you prolapsed assholes, you grotesque monsters, you racists and rapists and wretched abusers, you vengeful, petty horrors. Side note, some of you will be civil because our rage and scorn will fuel the other side, but fuck that double standard in both of its ears. The thing is, man, a lot of this shit boils down to simply just words, right? Like the people out there compared to the 320 million Americans that are the ones you are directly aiming this at are really in no way, shape, or form the people that you're painting them to be. Just as people on the other side of the coin, the vast majority, are not who you're acting like. But I love the winter is coming. Come on, dude. If you not till 2019. Anyway, he goes on to say here, well, if you hadn't said those sassy words or demonstrated anger at our whittled down democracy, I for a second might have been convinced not to eat this baby. But fee on you. Your incivility made me eat this baby. Spoiler warning, they were going to eat this baby. P.S. It's okay if you're not okay. All right. So I think that last particular tweet is probably where Chuck is on just a mental level. Again, he's really going off the deep end on this one here, and it's not looking good. Let's see. He goes on to say, this was just this morning. Monday, the world is strange, gone mad, and we need you. We need your heart, your fight, your spirit. We need your voice, your ideas, your love. We need the fire you breathe, the passion in your blood. I also need to borrow your truck and a shovel because I have some bodies here. And that's pretty much where it goes on that one. I mean, I would argue that Chuck Wendig is not well. I've covered him before on this channel, and the only reason why I'm covering him on this particular channel is because this is a representative of Disney. Now, normally I wouldn't call for anyone to be punished for things they say online. That is their opinion, but this feels like it's going beyond that opinion. It feels like it's edging on the side of an attack, of calling for an attack, of calling for outright violence. He alludes to it without specifically saying it. So he's kind of covering his ass in that particular regard. But this is a person who I don't believe is mentally well. I don't believe this person is a good brand ambassador for the companies that he represents. And I'm not suggesting that they fire him. I'm not suggesting that they come in and they cancel his contract and they never work with him ever again. Although there are people out there who will definitely comment on this video and say, no, you totally should. You totally should get rid of him. That's your opinion. I disagree. And the reason why I disagree is because I think someone like Chuck Wendig definitely has emotional issues and anger issues in regards to the current presidency. And as a person who probably would align with him more politically than not in a few areas, I don't view that as being a healthy outlet, because it can be perceived as something that is more aimed at violence than it is aimed at commentary. And that is where he's going to eventually become himself a liability. We've seen this happen with James Gunn. I disagreed with that ruling as well. I've talked about that openly. But this is a situation where someone is actively engaging in these tactics and his bosses are not saying anything. The people who pay him to represent their brand are not saying, hey, man, cool it out, Chuck. Don't stop it. Stop it, Chuck. You know, they're not doing that. And that's a problem, because this could be used as a way to further damage the Star Wars brand. There are people out there that are going to comment on this, and they're going to look at it from the perspective of him attacking Star Wars fans who are Trump supporters. And that might actually be a relatively easy connection to make. But yeah, Chuck Wendig, when Trump was elected, did come out and make the comment that Trump supporters were white supremacists. This was one of the things that kicked off the hashtag dump Star Wars movement, which was an absolute just complete fabrication of all logic and reason. And people believed him. People believed the guy who had put that on because he wanted to believe that Chuck Wendig spoke for all of Star Wars. And Chuck Wendig wasn't silenced back then. And the dumb Star Wars thing ultimately went nowhere, but it did gain some steam for a while. And it could absolutely happen again. We know that ultimately the fandom menace is in my opinion, that and the opening weekend for being Memorial Day is one of the things that really hurt Solo. And, you know, you can argue that that Star Wars fans, that's not true. People can argue that all the time. But my question is, those who showed up to The Last Jedi did not show up to Solo. Why? Why? If people loved it, if Star Wars fans loved it, then why is it only made $392 million worldwide when The Last Jedi did $1.3 billion? If it was as beloved, that's what I'm talking about here, is word of mouth and fans can seriously damage this. They can damage anything. If weaponized enough, if driven enough, if motivated enough, they can do it. And that's what's going to happen here. This is honestly a call to Kathleen Kennedy and to everyone else at to Lucasfilm, those who would who work above him, who hire him, who cut his checks, to go, it's maybe time you rein it in a little bit, because he could damage the brand. And I think that's a fair assessment. But anyway, I leave it to you guys. What are your thoughts on this one? Let me know in the comments. What do you guys think about this? Do you think Chuck Wendig is going to be detrimental to Star Wars? Is it just not a big issue? These are things I'm curious to know. If you got this far, type Chuck in the chat so I know you guys made it. And definitely leave your comments below, subscribe, like, all that jazz. I'll talk to you all later. Have yourself a great day, and peace out.